Hello, welcome to another video. For this video, I'm going to give 12 answers to 12 tags. I've been tagged by GeekyHyghJinx under the horror category. I've got 12 questions here pertaining to the horror genre. I go along to GeekyHyghJinx's channel. I'll leave a link down below. He does a great job, reviews and that, and he's very enthusiastic about his movies and that, and he's a great guy. So as I say, I'll leave the link down below to GeekyHyghJinx's channel. And thanks very much, mate, for recognizing me love for horror. And tagging me. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, without further ado, I've got the questions here, so I'll just go through them one by one and just give me answers. Okay, so the first tag is what is your scariest slasher character? Now, of course, being a huge horror fan, this was a little difficult for me because there's been some great slasher characters over the years, but I would have to go with Michael Myers from the Halloween movies. There's just something about his character, very creepy, very eerie, and I've spoke about this character before a lot in previous videos. Fantastic when he made his debut in the 1978 John Carpenter classic Halloween. A really memorable horror character, and of course, like he had a good like an enemy. In Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie Strode, and Michael Myers. So that's my answer to the first question. The scariest slasher character, and that is Michael Myers. Now the second tag is what is your worst horror sequel in a franchise, 4 or more? Well, a couple instantly spring to mind, although one or two of them didn't extend to 4 movies. I would definitely nominate Fright Night 2 as a really awful sequel. Watched it a couple of years ago, and it wasn't a patch on the original Fright Night. The story was slow. The characters, I didn't like the characters, it was a really disappointing sequel. So that's Fright Night 2. Sinister 2, I didn't like that either. That was another disappointing sequel. The sequel to Insidious, I didn't care for that. The story was again slow and boring. So there's been quite a few disappointing sequels over the years. And the Freddy Krueger movies, the Nightmare on Elm Street, especially the Nightmare on Elm Street, the Dream Child, and the Dream Master. Those movies for me heralded the start of the series' decline. They started to put too many comedic elements into Freddy's character. There's so many dire sequels, and I mean dire, guys, that I've watched over the years. But if I was pushed for a choice, those two would be top of my list. Fright Night 2, awful sequel, and Sinister 2, again, an awful sequel. Okay, so the third tag is name a horror movie you wish more people spoke about. This is a bit of a difficult one, but I've gone for a movie called Creep from 2014. Now, if you're not familiar with Creep, it's basically about this struggling filmmaker. He gets this assignment to go to this guy's house. He lives in the woods, like in a remote location. And he goes to this guy's house to do a video diary because this guy is dying. He's got like I think it's a brain tumor, and he's only got so many weeks to live. And what he wants to do, he wants to make a video diary to give to his as yet unborn son, for future posterity, basically. This is actually my favourite found footage movie as well. So he goes along to this guy's house, and he's all right at first, and that this guy welcomes him and that, but then he starts acting very strangely. Like he go for a walk in the woods, and the guy disappears, and then he jumps out the cameraman, frightens him. And then there's another couple of other strange exhibitions of behaviour that this guy does, once the film made and that. And so I urge you to check it out if you haven't seen Creep. Not many people, I don't think many people know about it. I haven't heard many people speak about it. But they've done a sequel as well called Creep 2, which was awful. So yeah, again a very poor sequel. Yeah. So yeah, so I would say Creep from 2014 is a movie that, you know, I haven't heard many people speak about. Yeah, very good movie. I urge you to check it out. Okay, so moving on to the fourth tag, a horror remake you prefer over the original. That's easy. The Amityville Horror Remake. Yeah, I did not like the original 1979 Amityville Horror that starred James Brolin and Margot Kidder. I thought it was slow, I thought it was interminable, I thought it was boring, and I thought the story was extremely dull. But I loved the remake. I think it was made around about, oh, I don't know, was it 2006, 2007? That was much more enjoyable movie, yeah. Really, yeah, from start to finish, yeah. There was more action in it, there was more scares. Yeah, I've watched the original one many times, but each time I watched it, I'm afraid it can't hold a candle to the remake, yeah, which is very unusual, guys, because normally when you remake a movie, it's not as good, not a patch on the original, but in this case, it was a pleasing exception, yeah. So that's my answer for the fourth tag, a horror remake you prefer over the original. That is the Amityville Horror Remake. Okay, so moving on to tag 5. Name a horror movie that didn't live up to the hype. Well, that's easy. Hereditary. Yeah, I know a lot of people like it. A lot of people hate it. It's a Marmite movie. They branded it when it first came out as the new Exorcist. No. I did not like it at all. I've watched it a few times now, and I've tried to get into it. Like, I tried to, you know, sort of like, I know there's a lot of hidden meanings in the movie, but I watched it, and as I say, I still don't care too much for it. Yeah, but that's not to say, as I say, a lot of people like it. A lot of people like the slow burning aspect of it, but it wasn't for me, guys. It was I thought it was a very overrated movie, just like the other movie I spoke about the other day, Midsummer. Again, directed by the same director. Yeah, I didn't care too much for that either. Yeah, very overrated movie. Yeah, but I say a lot of people, it's a Marmite movie, Hereditary, and a lot of people like it, a lot of people hate it. Yeah, but as I say, I'm afraid to say, yeah, I found it very overrated. Yeah, so I did buy it. Yeah, buy it, but I let it go because I didn't really want it. I didn't think it was worthy of keeping in my collection. Yeah, so that's my answer for tag number 5. Name a horror movie that didn't live up to the hype, and that is Hereditary. Okay, moving on to number 6. My favourite horror animal. Whew, again, this is a difficult one because there's been so many. The shark from Jaws, the rats from Willard, there's been loads. There really has, yeah. But I've gone with wolf. Because wolf, as the animal, the wolf has played a big part in many horror movies. Think of the werewolf movies, think of Dracula, where he turns into a wolf, and countless other horror movies in which a werewolf, a wolf has been, a chief aspect of the movie. 1 or 2 movies where the packs of wolves have attacked people. Yeah, another animal, it will be a cat. You've got loads of movies about creepy cats. The Black Cat, The Uncanny, the anthology movie with Peter Cushing, 3 cat stories, and that's a good one. But I've gone with wolf for my favourite horror animal. Okay, moving on to tag 7. What's your favourite horror book? Oh, well, again, being a voracious reader, there are so many. I like a lot of Stephen King's. There's so many. I like the original Dracula by Bram Stoker, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. But if I was pushed to name one particular book, also, I should say, a book that has been a huge influence in my taking up the writing pen myself, becoming a horror writer, that is The Rats by James Herbert. First published in 1974, it basically tells the story about this scientist. He brings this rat in from New Guinea to Britain, and it mates with a rat here, and it spawns a race of rats as big as dogs, mutant rats, and he run riots all over London, eating people alive. Oh, it's a horrific book, guys, if you haven't read it. The Rats, yeah. I first read it in September 1975, and I read it again. I couldn't put it down. It was I think it's one of the greatest horror books ever written, yeah. And James Herbert, God rest his soul, he was a fantastic horror writer. Always excited when he brought a new book out and that, yeah. And I love The Fog as well, the sequel. That was about like a fog that comes out the ground, which has been spawned by, you know, by scientists, like, you know, messing around and that. And this greenish yellow fog comes out the ground and drives everybody mad. Oh yeah, that's another horrific read, yeah, yeah. Especially the scene in the school gym. Oh yeah, but I won't say about that in case you haven't read it. It's one of the most horrific scenes in horror literature history. You know, yeah, but yeah, my number one horror book would be The Rats by James Herbert. Yeah, fantastic book, very horrific read. Yeah, not for the faint-hearted. Yeah, okay. So, gonna move on now to tag number 8. What is your favourite fire stunt in a horror movie? Again, very, very difficult choice, guys. There's been a myriad of inferno scenes in horror movies. You think of Dr. Frankenstein when he got burnt to death with his monster, you know, in a couple of Hammer movies, and of course the Universal ones where the villagers go to the castle and burn the castle down and that. But if I was pushed to name one, I would say Dracula's demise in the 1970 Hammer production, The Scars of Dracula. You've got Dracula played by the brilliant Christopher Lee, the greatest Dracula ever. You've got Dracula outside his castle on the ramparts and that, and he's got this huge, I think it's like this huge steel lance, and he's there, and he's about to impale Dennis Waterman's character, the main protagonist, and that, and Dennis Waterman standing there with Jenny Hanley, you know, his girl, like his love interest, and Dracula looking as awesome as ever, and, you know, ferocious as ever. He's got this steel lance, and as he's about to hail at Dennis Waterman, a bolt of lightning strikes. How convenient. A bolt of lightning strikes from the blue, and it hits the lance, and Dracula goes up in flames, and he's screaming and that, and he's staggering around this castle and that, and he's screaming his head off, and the flames are burning his body, and he falls down the side of the castle, and he ends up burnt to a crisp. That is one of my all-time favourites, fiery scenes at the end of a horror movie, The Scars of Dracula. Christopher Lee. Nobody could play Dracula like Christopher Lee, you know, yeah. So there you go, that's my answer for the favourite fire stunts. That is Dracula's demise at the end of The Scars of Dracula. Of course, we mustn't forget the Wicker Man. That had quite a fire, you know, a fiery ending. Yeah. But I'll for this category, it will be Christopher Lee's end in The Scars of Dracula. Okay, so moving on now to tag number 9. Name a horror film you feel only you enjoy. I think I might have to pass on this, because somebody somewhere is bound to like the same movie as you, you know, where a lot of people hate it. There will always be somebody who will share your love of the movie. Yes, so that is a very, very difficult one. Name a horror film you feel only you enjoy. So I think I'll have to pass on that. Okay, moving on to tag number 10. What is the coolest looking horror creature? Again, a hugely difficult question. There's been so many cool horror creatures over the years. You think of the Universal monsters, the creature from the Black Lagoon, you know, Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula. Later on, 1979, Alien. I thought that was a very cool monster. The Day of the Triffids, you know, and of course the countless science fiction movies and that, yeah. But if I was pushed to name one particular, you know, my favourite, coolest looking monster, I would have to say Boris Karloff's Frankenstein monster. In the 3 Universal movies he made, where he depicted the, you know, Frankenstein's creation. Oh yeah, the square head, you know, the boats become so iconic in the annals of horror movie history, you know, and the cadaverous look, you know, and Boris Karloff, you know, he was just the best Frankenstein monster ever. And Jack Pierce was really on the money. That is Universal's makeup artist. Jack Pierce was really on the money when he created when he put, you know, Karloff. He'd done the makeup for Karloff and that. He'd done a consummate job, you know, and he also, of course, he'd done the other Universal monsters, the Wolfman and so on. But yeah, I would say the coolest looking monster for me, and the monster, I should say, that got me into horror way back in the late 60s was Frankenstein's monster, played by the late great Boris Karloff. The coolest looking monster, you know, in my book. And from the first Frankenstein movie, 1931, and of course The Bride of Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein. So yeah, so that's my answer there for the coolest looking horror creature. Okay, so we're moving on to tag 11 now. Name a horror movie that you didn't expect to like. Again, this is another difficult one. I can't really think. I can't really think off the top of my head. A horror movie I went into, not really expecting to like it, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to pass on that, guys. Yeah. Now we're moving on to the final tag. What is your most memorable horror ending? Oh, again, a very difficult question for me. Being a huge horror fan, there's been a myriad examples of good endings of most memorable endings of a horror movie. For instance, Drag Me to Hell, very sad ending where the girl, she gets the piece of paper handed back to her and she gets dragged down to hell at the end. Yeah. There's been countless. Yeah. But if I was to pick one, I would say the Wicker Man, where Sergeant Howie, Edward Woodward's character, gets burnt alive in this huge Wicker Man as part of a pagan cult sacrifice. Yeah. The Wicker Man is one of my all-time favourite horror movies. I've watched it countless times, and I can never forget that ending. Of course, Sergeant Howie was a devout Christian, and he came up against this cult on this island led by Christopher Lee. This pagan cult. They sacrificed their people, for nature and that. Yeah, and the way they lead him up to the Wicker Man and that, and he put him inside and that, with the chickens and that, and he just set fire to him and he just goes up and one of the most saddest endings in horror movie history as well. Yeah, you can't beat the Wicker Man. Yeah, so I would say that would be my most. Although there's been loads of memorable endings of horror movies over the years, loads. I would have to say the Wicker Man, yeah, starring Edward Woodward and Christopher Lee. Yeah. Okay, well that's about rounds up me this tag video. Thanks again, GeekyHyghJinx, for tagging me, and thanks for recognising my love for horror. Appreciate that. Yeah. This is a horror channel, guys, mostly. Yeah. And I say, I'll leave a link down below to his channel if you haven't checked it out. He's a great guy. He does great. He puts a lot of passion into his reviews and that. And his channel's very entertaining and informative. Yeah. So as I say, I'll leave a link down below. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. That's me 12 tag video for the horror genre. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Please feel free to share, subscribe, comment. And all going well. I'll talk to you all again soon. Take care.